Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Breber and alongside me is Logan Camden, and we've got a jam-packed show for you all today. We're going to be talking some NBA, we're going to be talking some NFL, but before we get into all of that, just wanted to real quick shout out that we do have hats coming very soon to our new merch setup at breakingtea.com. That is linked in our link tree across our social media bios. So if you've been holding out, waiting on the hats, check in, stay tuned in with those because they're coming soon. Now, to the sports, Logan. We're going to start today's show by ranking our top 10 NBA contenders. This is not just how well are these teams playing right now. This is long-term. How do we view them in terms of their upside to win playoff series and potentially the NBA title? We're about a sixth of the way into the season now, so we're starting to get a sense of what some of these teams look like. Logan, let's start at the top. Who is your number one NBA title contender?
I've still got the Boston Celtics atop my contender rankings, and I picked the Celtics to repeat as NBA champions in the preseason. I'm pretty intrigued to see it if you're going to have them atop as well, but they've got more top-end talent than any team in the league. They're still number one in offensive rating. They're a top 10 team in terms of defensive rating. And when we're looking at them in terms of the playoffs, comparative to last year, they need Tatum to pull his weight in the playoffs. He can't do what he did last year. I think you need Kristaps Porzingis to be healthy. I think the margins between them and other teams have shrunk enough where they need health. They need their guys to pull all their weight. But it's a really good formula. They're really strong defensively, and they have a really strong offensive identity. And I was really critical of the Celtics last year, right? I always talked about they took, way too many threes and stuff. I found a crazy stat. Shout out to Adam Taylor, NBA. He's the guy who I found this from. They attempt 50.4 three-pointers per game, right? By far the most in the league, number one. Carson, over 80% of the Celtics threes have been wide open this season. That's what's so ridiculous about this team, man, is you can criticize them for, they shoot too much. They're too reliant on it. No, they're just so good at getting downhill, creating that initial penetration, and then manufacturing shots out of it. They're rock solid, and at full health, I don't think there's a better team in the league. And again, comparing them to last year, I think their depth is better, dude. I've been really impressed
100%.
with Peyton Pritchard this year. Sam Hauser's been playing really well. I've liked when Kata minutes. I've always liked Kata, but he's looked really solid. I think their depth is even better than last year. So the Celtics stay atop my number one in my hierarchy.
It's pretty damn impressive to be 10-3 and top 3 in net rating when you haven't had Kristaps Porzingis and you've been without Jaylen Brown for a few games. Celtics are number one for me as well. There's nothing to me that would indicate that this team is in any way inferior to last year. Tatum has been better than last season. Derek White is stepping up in the absence of some of these other offensive weapons. He's averaging 19 points per game on 65% true shooting. And you mentioned the depth. We expected this to be improved, but the biggest difference has been Peyton Pritchard. The guy's been unreal. He's the sixth man of the year frontrunner today. He's giving you 16 points per game on 67% true shooting and is just simply put one of the best three-point shooters in basketball. I mean, what he can do as a pull-up shooter is unbelievable. 43% from deep on 9 attempts per game. And there are stretches where he is carrying their offense. I think about a few days ago, they started slow against the Bucks and they were facing a big deficit. Peyton Pritchard gives them 20-something in the first half, makes 6 threes. He keeps them in the game single-handedly. That's a special weapon that they didn't have last year. He wasn't playing at that level last year. He had some big moments, but it's been more consistent, more impressive this year. They remain my number one. They weren't my preseason title pick. I did take the Thunder, who I still have in my number 2 slot, but I think the Celtics are more of a sure thing. I think that they have the most overwhelming combination of advantage creation and three-point shooting in basketball, and they have great defensive personnel. This team was a juggernaut last year. I think they're phenomenal this year. They're holding down my number 1 spot as well. Who's number 2 for you, Logan?
I also have the Thunder. The Thunder are top 10 in offensive rating. They're number 1 in defensive rating and net rating right now. And I think they've got the best defense and the best depth in the league. There's really no holes in this team. I think when we're looking at them in terms of playoff prospects, they're going to be without Chet Holmgren for a while. So we'll see how that affects them with seeding, if at all. I still expect the Thunder to be the number 1 seed out west. I think this team is that good top to bottom. I think that, Chet obviously has to be healthy for the playoff run. I think Hartenstein also needs to be available, and they need to figure out that fit by the time the playoffs come around, because hypothetically, say they do draw a Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. I think they need a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein to be matched up and to help them negate Jokic a little bit more, right? Like, you're not going to ever stop or completely slow down Jokic, but I think Hartenstein's a really big component in that. But again, best defense and depth in the league. Everybody can shoot. Everybody is so skilled here. And I honestly, Carson, I'm kind of excited about the Thunder without Chet. Like, even just like being able to watch this team. Chet's a really fun player. He's gotten even better this year, but like,
Yeah.
they're still a really fun watch, like, even without him. And it's impressive that, just like how they're able to withstand and survive. This is a gritty team. And again, I think some other things need to go their way. Jalen Williams has to pull his weight. He wasn't good in the Mavericks series. You need guys to be knocking down shots from behind the arc, right? Kason Wallace, Wiggins, they went cold in the playoffs last year. You need some things to go their way that didn't last season, but I think this team is really young. They're all improving, and again, best depth and best defense in the league. That matters to me, so they're number 2.
These two teams are completely in a tier of their own. I felt that they were in a tier of their own since preseason. That has just become more and more clear to me. Everything that I was looking for from the Thunder, basically in terms of what made them a title contender, what made them my title pick before the year, is panning out, with the exception of the Hartenstein edition because he hasn't been on the floor, but I am very optimistic about that still. J-Dub is playing amazing basketball right now. He's giving you 21, 6, and 5. He has stepped up as they've needed more offensive creation from him. Chet has taken a sizable leap. I don't care about the raw numbers. Go out there, watch the aggression he's playing with on a per-minute basis, right? The numbers have taken a noticeable leap. It's just he had some foul trouble, wasn't playing a ton of minutes, then he got hurt very early in the game. This early in the season with such a small sample size, that knocks down your per-game numbers. This is a better, more aggressive Chet Holmgren that we're seeing. And those two guys, if they play at a consistent star level, well, that's the biggest question mark. That's the biggest area in which they under-delivered last year. And when you're holding them up to the standard of Boston, then you start to have these advantages of, okay, I think SGA would outplay Tatum. They're close. I'll take SGA. And then you have the depth advantage that you get from OKC. You have them being the best defense on the planet. In my opinion, at full strength, one of the best defenses we've seen this century. All that stuff starts to come together, and really the only question is, can they keep up with the Celtics 3-point? I think that they have so many routes to offensive creation. They still have a lot of shooting, and they're so great defensively, and they have so many lineup combinations that, yes, they can. And at this point, before moving them to number 1, I just need to see all the pieces out there, right? I need to see Hartenstein and Chet fit together. I need to be sure that they've figured out this new look roster. And we won't see that for a couple more months, so that's fine. Boston will be number 1. OKC will be number 2. I don't think any team in the league is touching either one of these for me. I honestly don't. How about number 3, Logan? This is where it starts to get interesting. Who do you have here?
I have the Denver Nuggets, and I think that people will probably take issue with this considering how hot the Cleveland Cavaliers have started. They still have not lost. They're 13-0. What do the Nuggets have that the Cavaliers don't? The best player on the planet. So that's why the Nuggets are number 3 to me. And I think back to a lot of my concerns in preseason, and I'm more optimistic about this team than I think I was even in the preseason. I was very high on Denver, but I was really worried about Christian Brown and how he fit in with the loss of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. And I think Christian Brown has been playing phenomenal basketball. And in certain ways, he impacts the game in ways that KCP, just wouldn't, right? I think he's comparable as a defender. I think he just plays so freaking hard. I think he's a better cutter, but he's willingly shooting the basketball a little more. He's a good shooter. I was really worried about that change. Christian Brown has lived up to my expectations, and I like this bench. I like Russ and what he can bring. I'm always going to have my reservations about Russell Westbrook. I think everybody will, but he can impact the game in a way that a Reggie Jackson couldn't. I like Julian Strawther, right? Like, I'm not super worried. I guess the pieces that I'm most worried about are, can Jamal Murray and MPJ hit a damn shot when it comes playoff time? I'm not worried about Nikola Jokic. I know what he's going to do, and that's why they're number 3. He's the best player on the planet. Regardless of whatever goes wrong, Nikola Jokic stays constant. And I'm optimistic about the Cavaliers' offense, but when we're comparing these teams, right, that's still why the Cavs are in my number 4 spot and not in my number 3 spot. I could see the Cavaliers' offense grinding to a halt in certain situations still against teams. The Nuggets' offense isn't going to stop because they have Nikola Jokic, and that's my difference right now. They're number 3, and he's still an unstoppable problem. Again, you may look at this roster and be underwhelmed top to bottom when you compare them to maybe the Cavs or the Knicks or stuff like that. Jokic is the great equalizer, and there's no great answer for him from any team. So that's why the Nuggets are number 3 for me.
I have Denver at number 3 as well, and I'm with you. Versus everybody other than Boston and OKC, who are just so overwhelmingly talented, and then also have a guy at a superstar level, but just stacked teams top to bottom, I would bet on Jokic and this starting 5 versus everybody else. Like, you just can't overstate the level that Jokic is playing at. Actually, some people are pushing it maybe because they're saying that like he's playing at the highest level ever, which I don't agree with, but offensively he is, and he's playing at a top 3 peak this century. And that is a peak that is only matched by LeBron and Shaq at their best, surpassed by LeBron, obviously. I would take peak Shaq, but that's the top 3. And when you have a guy playing at that level, you're going to be in the mix no matter what. And that player is very likely going to overwhelm a vast majority of the talent advantages that other teams might have and overwhelmingly cover up the holes that your team does have. And that's what Jokic has done with this offense in the absence of Aaron Gordon, in the absence of Jamal Murray for a time. Still producing a 129 offensive rating when he's on the floor, which is just unfathomable. So as long as Jamal gets back to his normal level, they're the biggest threat to those top 2 teams because nobody else has that advantage of, okay, our guy is just going to be in a different stratosphere and you have no answer for him. And although I do think Boston and OKC are so much more talented that I'd still definitely pick them, nobody else can do what Nikola Jokic can do to those teams. MPJ is balling right now. Christian Brown is just flat out awesome. He's easily exceeded my expectations. We know who Aaron Gordon is. And I'm really not too worried about Jamal or MPJ, who you mentioned struggled in last year's playoffs. I always thought the MPJ stuff was silly because, like, guys, this is an elite shooter of the basketball who had a really bad shooting series. That is not a concern that to me is a long-term thing. Jamal, I get it because we've seen a more prolonged period of him struggling. He was also really hampered by the calf stuff last year, I think, and is a difficult shot maker who has some variance with that tough shot making that really didn't go his way in the home stretch of last season. I thought that he looked great in his return from injury. We'll see how he continues to trend, but I'm not ultimately worried about Jamal Murray. I don't think he's getting to 2023 playoff level, but I definitely think he's going to be significantly better than he was in last year's playoffs. And when their starters are out there, Logan, as has been the case for years, they are an insanely good basketball team. We haven't really seen all 5 of those dudes on the floor much, but if you put Jokic, Murray, MPJ, Brown out there together, they have a plus 21 net rating. Jokic, Gordon, Porter Jr., Brown together, they have a plus 17 net rating. Like, that has always been the strength of this team. You put the right sort of offensive pieces around Jokic and you're completely unstoppable. That's what they have. I'm not too worried about the 3-point shooting volume when Christian Brown is shooting the ball this well and is shooting the ball this willingly. Like, they've been very low there for years. As long as he is not a major step down from KCP there, with all that he does bring as a cutter and an athlete, then I think that this is an absolutely elite offense. I feel better about the bench game after game. I do think Russ is continuing to play better and continuing to fit better. I become more confident in Strother. I become more confident in Peyton Watson. Peyton Watson's had the benefit of playing a lot more minutes with Jokic because he's been starting. That makes you look better. Everybody looks better when they're playing with Jokic, but I'm becoming more confident in these guys. And I think if they can just make one move, right, for a decent bench shooter or a decent bench big, I think you could be looking at the best Nuggets bench of this era because they have athletes. They have a bench ball handler who has a higher ceiling than what they've had, a lower floor with Russ, sure, but he's still much better than Reggie Jackson overall. And it's really just the complete lack of a backup center. I think that they'll play Aaron Gordon in the playoffs at the 5. You're not playing Sharch. You're not playing DeAndre Jordan. You're not playing Zeke Naji. We talked a little bit about Larry Nance last show. I think that he would be a great fit. I don't think that he would be an overly difficult piece to get. But even without one of those moves, which I think they should try to make, I'm more confident in the bench. And I always thought that the whole sky is falling stuff with Denver early in the year was silly. I said if you believe in Jokic and if you believe in this starting 5, then you should believe this is going to be a really good basketball team. And also things were always going to get better with Russ. So that's how I feel. They just need to lock in defensively, which they haven't done for most of this year. And then I feel at least as good about this team as I did in the preseason. They're going to be without Jokic tonight, so maybe their win streak ends, although it might not because they're playing the Pelicans, who have 0 healthy basketball players. But I believe deeply in the Nuggets formula because of that starting 5 and because they have by so far the best player on the planet. Number 4, Logan, I presume is the Cavs, based on how you were talking.
I do have the Cavaliers here, 13-0, very impressive. And the first dynamic I want to hit on is them versus New York. I trust their defensive foundation a lot more than New York's, and that's why I have them. But I think New York clearly has the offensive advantage, and that's still what I'm nervous about with Cleveland. I think that Garland and Mitchell have struck a really nice balance between them. Garland's returned to form. And Evan Mobley has taken an offensive leap, right? Like, just, again, little stuff where, like we've talked about on this show so much, right? Him taking more shots, him initiating from the perimeter, him bringing the ball up in transition. You needed more skill. You needed more creation. You needed more of that from Mobley. And so I have more confidence in this offense, in this fit, than I ever have before with Cleveland, right? For years, we've been talking about, oh, maybe you got to blow it up between Allen and Mobley. They can't work. Oh, you got to blow it up maybe with Garland and Mitchell, right? Because they don't work. I don't feel that way anymore. And for the most part, I really like their bench. Ty Jerome has been balling uncontrollably. I know you tweeted this out. Dude, his per 36 numbers are still 22 a night, 8 assists a night on 74% true shooting. Like,
nasty.
What? Oh, Ty Jerome? Yeah, that's Ty Jerome. Karis LeVert can serve you buckets off the bench. Ty Jerome can float your offense and make good decisions. I really like Dean Wade. Okoro's been shooting the hell out of the ball, right? So, like, I like their depth. I like their starting 5 a lot. The one thing that I just need to see is sustained brilliance from this offense, because when I look at them in a playoff, in a hypothetical scenario, I could just see the offense running cold in the half court in a playoff series. And maybe that's battle scars from the last 2 years from Cleveland that we've seen, where they grind to a standstill against Orlando, right? They grind to a standstill against New York. But it's less of a concern than it's ever been before, and that's why they're stamped. And again, I believe in this defense a whole hell of a lot more than I do a lot of these other teams. Mobley and Allen can wreak havoc on that end. So I just need to see the offense a little more. I don't know, though. Like, let me ask you this, Carson. Oh, first, do you have the Cavs at number 4?
I do. I have the Cavs at number 4.
Let me ask you this. Is there any world in which their offense is great enough in this regular season where they continue producing enough that they could leapfrog the Nuggets into that 3 spot?
I think it's really close between the two of them, so I can't say that's impossible. The thing is, like, basically the reason I have the Nuggets higher is not because I think they're a better basketball team per se. It's because they have Nikola Jokic, and I just think that is such an overwhelming factor. I don't have any red flags with the Cavs. Like, do I think that they're the number 2 offense in basketball, which they are at this point in terms of offensive rating? No, I don't expect that number to hold. But, like, my questions about them are pretty minimal in the scheme of things. They do exist, but in every way, they're significantly better than last year. Like, there's a reason this team is undefeated. They are awesome. They are impressive night after night. The Mobley leap is huge for this team, and it is bigger than what you see on the stat sheet. There's a level of comfort. There's a level of confidence that you see with him pushing in transition, just attacking the rim, right? Catches the ball at the nail and is more decisive there, getting downhill. More comfort shooting the ball, just more involved in this offense than ever before. That's big to have him as a much more legitimate third option offensively, and that makes him, to me, a legitimate star with what he's doing for you defensively. And Darius Garland is playing his best basketball ever, and I owe Garland an apology. I loved him as a prospect. I loved him early in his career. I remember in his second season making a video saying this guy's going to be a star. But I was really discouraged by what we saw from him last year. And I think I should have taken more note of the context, what he was going through with the jaw injury, having dropped weight mid-season. Like, he was playing through a lot of adversity, but I was deeply concerned, and he has had a phenomenal bounce back per 36 minutes, Logan. And by the way, that's the thing with all these Cavs. because of the way they stagger their minutes, but also because they're beating the brakes off of teams. Like, none of their dudes are playing more than 30 minutes a night, so their numbers are better than they look if you're just looking at the raw counting stats. Per 36, Garland is averaging 25 points and 8 assists a night on 66% true shooting. This is the most impressive he's ever been as a finisher. To me, the pull-up jump shooting is unreal. He's always been elite there, but he's on another planet right now. And the biggest thing is just he looks confident. He looks comfortable. The skill set with Garland has been there. Last year, a lot of it was just him not asserting himself in important stretches. He didn't play well, but he also wasn't even inserting himself with the sort of volume you needed from your second option. I don't have any questions about that right now. The dude is absolutely balling. So those two offensive leaps and Dean Wade being in the starting five, what he brings as a shooter offensively and as a two-way presence means that I think this team is way better offensively. And then you mentioned Ty Jerome, what he does with the second unit. I feel better about the wing group, especially once you get Max Strus back out there. But Dean Wade is legitimately good. And Sam Merrill, right, is going to have his issues defensively in a playoff series, but the shooting is really impressive. LeVert is playing his best basketball that we've seen in some time right now. I mean, he's just been super efficient this year. So they have a ton of groups that they can deploy at any given moment, because you can go with any combination of like the lead guard and the elite defensive big, right? And at any time, you can have that elite defensive anchor and you can have that really high-level perimeter creator on the floor. You can play all four of them at the same time, and with Mobley's growth offensively and with Garland playing like this offensively, those lineups are much more successful than they were last year. And I feel better about the wings that you can mix and match in there. They played a lineup the other day where they didn't have a big on the floor. They went small ball with Dean Wade basically at the 5, and they played fine in those minutes. Like, Kenny Atkinson is also a really good coach. He's another reason I'm more confident in this team. So the only reasons I have the 3 teams I do above them is because they have more overwhelming talent, right? I think that it would be silly to be moved off of the Celtics and Thunder as the top 2 based on this great regular season stretch from the Cavs. But while those 2 teams have also looked great and are dealing with injuries and just have a different level of talent, and then the Nuggets, as we talked about, it's that Jokic unstoppable offense factor. There's nothing that concerns me with the Cavs. I think this offense is really good. I think this defense is elite. I think they are a great basketball team. I legitimately do. And I do trust them more than the Knicks, because the Knicks defense is a red flag that I don't have with the Cavs. I'm not saying that it's impossible for the Knicks offense to overpower the Cavs, because I think that their offense is really special, but the Cavs are a more complete basketball team. And Donovan Mitchell can play at that top 15 level you need from your number 1. Checking a lot of boxes, dude. I'm super excited with what we're seeing from Cleveland. I didn't see it coming, and I apologize, because these dudes are balling the hell out right now. Who's in that 5 spot for you, Logan?
Maybe this isn't the right timing to make this take, but I have the Dallas Mavericks at number 5. And a big key is because of how much I believe in this defense. When you can give me 48 minutes of Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, and I've got P.J. Washington and Najee Marshall on the wings, I think my defense is going to be all right. And that's a difference right now. I'll spoil it. I have the Knicks at 6. And I thought about this, right, because it's tough. I love what the Knicks have going for them offensively, but we haven't seen Mitchell Robinson. I don't trust Karl Anthony Towns at all defending for me at the 5 spot. He's a weapon. Karl Anthony Towns is a certified offensive weapon.
Oh my
and I think
God.
that got lost in the mix. And we'll talk about that in a second. But considering the fact that I don't know how the Robinson-Towns fit is going to work out, and also considering the fact that we don't know how healthy Mitchell Robinson is going to be when it comes playoff time, because I think they need him to be healthy. And not only that, the Knicks are just a team in general that can't afford any injuries, right? They need everyone healthy for their playoff run. This is a very thin team in terms of depth. So those are my flags. Dallas, I believe in this defense. I know what they did last year. Kyrie Irving is playing some of the best basketball of his career. It's just Luka right now.
Yeah.
It's really just Luka. And we talked about this last episode. It's so funny to me, Carson, that we talk about his offensive struggles. What comes back to bite him in the ass versus the Jazz is him taking a nap and giving up a game-winning dunk.
Yeah.
Luka Doncic is still the biggest in regular season question mark about this team, right?
Question mark or problem up to this point?
Problem up to this point. I guess question mark isn't, thank you. That's not a good way to phrase it, because I know what Luka is.
Yeah.
And I know that Luka is going to answer this resoundingly, but it's just like, he's so frustrating sometimes, man. Like, his temperament and his attitude it's like childish, man. It comes off as like petulant a little bit, right? Like it's almost like this air of superiority, right? It's like I'm so good offensively, I'm so talented. Oh, the refs aren't giving me calls, so I'm just not gonna. I don't know, Carson. Like how many guys that have been this talented have had this like level of apathy? I don't. It's strange, man. I very rarely have I seen this with a superstar where it's like he doesn't care, and I don't know, man. I don't like his temperament. I don't like his attitude. I don't like his effort. I don't like his energy. I also just don't like how much Luka bitches and whines. I know we texted about this a couple of nights ago, just like that's consistent, but it's just slowly become a major part of his identity, man. And right, it's like I don't know, when you think about Kobe, right? You always attribute just maximum effort, maximum energy, maximum hard work. I don't like that a major component of Luka's identity right now is the fact that he doesn't care and that he's disengaged defensively. Like you said, the reason that the Mavericks are number 5 is because I can bank on this defense, and I know that in big spots, Luka's going to come through. Luka's one of the handful of guys that I want most on my basketball team in a big moment. But I really don't like right now that he's just, I don't know, taking these regular season games for granted. Seeding could be a very big component of how the Western Conference shakes out, man. Like who you go up against in the first round. If you get home field advantage or if you don't, home court advantage or not, could really come down in the scheme of things. Every game is important. Every game matters. And I just don't like that Luka is, he seems indifferent right now. I don't like this from Luka, and I wish that wasn't something that we had to deal with the with the Luka metric. He's so talented, but it's strange, man. He's frustrating, dude.
Yeah, it was unacceptable what we saw against the Jazz, and it wasn't just the one play in which he completely fell asleep and allowed a wide-open dunk for John Collins. It was a really atrocious defensive quarter, and it came on the heels of a really bad defensive finish for him against the Warriors. I'm not concerned about the Mavs. We just talked about this. I have them at number 6. I strongly considered them at number 5, and they and the Knicks both have this very much in common, where it's like you look at the record and it's, oh my God, 5-6, 5-7. They've been the 2 worst clutch teams in basketball. The Knicks are 1-5 in clutch games. The Mavs are 1-6 in clutch games. I don't expect those issues to remain for either one of these teams, but up to this point, the reason the Mavs have been bad in the clutch is Luka Doncic. And really, this entire slow start is on Luka Doncic, right? He's been inefficient, 54% true shooting. He's struggled from beyond the arc. He's shooting 38% in the clutch with just 1.9 clutch points per game, and his defense in those situations has been awful. I'm not going to overreact to this start, as I think some people are doing, both with the Mavs and with Luka specifically. But what I will say is he is at the level of ability where I have always viewed it as damn near a given that at some point he's going to will his way to a championship, right? And there's not a lot of dudes in NBA history who you can say that about. There's 15 to maybe like 17, 18 of those guys. And I've always considered that Luka is on the trajectory to be one of those guys. But what he has to do, if he does want to win a title, is take the defensive end of the floor more seriously, more consistently. A regular season game against Utah isn't the epitome of that, but just coming off of the disaster that was last year's finals, the worst individual defensive effort I've ever seen in the NBA finals, to come out and set this sort of tone defensively, where he's just had some of the most brutal lapses I've seen all season, that to me is really frustrating, and it's inexcusable, and it's something that he has to get more serious about. I've actually consistently been on the side throughout all of the time that Luka and Giannis have been in conversations for the second best player in the world title, that Giannis is number 2, Luka's number 3. And the reason I've said that is Giannis is such an exceptional two-way force. It requires like a GOAT level offensive force like Nikola Jokic to surpass him. And as great as Luka is offensively, he's just flawed enough as an offensive engine, right? Where he can take you out of rhythm, and he can be really inefficient at times, and he can be brutal on the defensive side of the ball. But I think people who are pushing it past that and saying, okay, now it's SGA over Luka, now it's Tatum over Luka, I think that they're overreacting to a rough offensive stretch from Luka, and like the level of control he exerts over the game, the playmaking scoring combo. It does make him one of the top 12 offensive engines we've seen in NBA history, in my opinion. And I think that we're going to see that very soon. I think Luka's going to be way better on both ends, and that's why I still like Dallas's formula a lot. I think they have more offensive skill than last year. Najee Marshall rocks, just has to shoot the ball better, which is a question mark for him, but he's been so good outside of the three-point shot. Their depth is really quite good when they're healthy, and that has been hindered by injuries in the season so far. You mentioned they've got 48 minutes of quality big play, quality interior defense. They haven't separated from the pack, and they are flawed, but I trust their talent the most. I trust their superstar shot-making combo, having the best player on the floor in almost every matchup, and all the other factors that we laid out with this supporting cast. So I have the Mavs at 6. I still have them as my third team in the West. I'm not concerned about this start. I'm just disappointed because we need to see more out of Luka.
Yeah, I just think, like, what if Jokic did this? You know what I mean? Like, what if any other superstar, did this? And, like, what the conversations would be surrounding them.
You don't think he's getting reamed sufficiently?
I mean, I think he's getting cooked. I think people are giving him the business the way he deserves it. But I just, a center has a good game against, it just makes me mad. Like, I know the pendulum always swings back and forth, but it's like some of the conversations around Jokic would get just ridiculous, man. And that's what makes me mad. I just want the standard to be the standard across the board because, I mean, people will be, well, you could never win a title with Jokic because he can't jump, he can't play defense. And it's just like, I don't know if any other superstar was giving you this kind of effort, some of the conversations would be. And
and it is important to note because these are two guys who are both physically limited. But you see all of the ways that Jokic manages to have a positive impact on the game, right? Transition, bust his ass to get down the floor. What he does with his hands, what he does with his defensive IQ, what he does on the glass. He's doing everything he can to overcome the fact that he cannot jump 6 inches off the ground and that he's slow-footed in space. Whereas with Luka, it's like he's compounding these issues because when he wants to, he's a below-average defender. He always has been. We had the ridiculous discourse last year about, actually, Luka's a real plus defender. There's a big difference between being improved and being good. But, okay, when he wants to, he can be a functional part of a team defense. But then there are stretches where he just doesn't, and he just is completely disengaged. And that's something that we really don't see from other superstars who are at the peaks of their powers. He's not 40 years old. He hasn't earned just taking stretches off like that, especially when we're talking about key moments in basketball games.
Exactly.
Or the NBA Finals.
And that's the key to me is it's like key fourth quarter against Golden State, key fourth quarter against Utah. The regular season games, but it's like, I mean, damn, man, you can take 30 minutes of meaningless basketball. Can you lock in for a minute for a possession? That's where it's really frustrating. And the dynamic between them and the Knicks, again, I just trust the Mavericks defense more, and I think that Luka and Kyrie can make up for the offensive advantage that the Knicks may have. Now, the Knicks offense, hot damn, man. Karl Anthony Towns gets me fired up, dude.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
I even think I underestimated how much better he would look in a different offensive situation with all this space, dude. I took for granted because I know how talented he is and how skilled he is. Hell, man, I even wrote down, maybe people forgot or were blinded by hate. Maybe that's me. Maybe I'm talking about myself, man.
People? Who's people, Logan? Who are we looking for here in the room?
I was blinded by my hate for Karl Anthony Towns, man. The guy's damn good, and he's so freaking skilled, dude. Like, with all this space to work, he makes shit look so effortless sometimes. The Knicks are in a different... The Knicks were toiling away in nasty, disgusting offensive battles, and we're not going to get that from the Knicks this year. And that's why I am confident in them, is there's so much space to work, and it benefits everybody. It's not just Cat being free of Gobert and having more offensive responsibility because he's not playing with a guy like Anthony Edwards, right? And him and Brunson complement each other so well, but it's everybody here. It's Anunoby, it's Bridges. Again, my issues with the Knicks, the things that worry me about them, I'm worried about their lack of depth, right? If Brunson or Cat go down, I'm worried. Because, like the Mavericks, right? Say Kyrie goes down for a little bit or Luka goes down for a little bit. Well, they have the other guy. Kyrie can carry the offense. Luka can carry the offense, right? They're going to be all right. if the Knicks lose anybody in this rotation, I am a little bit worried. I mean, shout out Deuce McBride, right? Deuce is a beast, but again, they're like 7 or 8 deep on their best night. 7 deep, realistically, with Hart and Deuce off the bench. Everybody else in that rotation scares me. So I'm worried about the depth. They need everybody healthy for the playoffs. I'm worried about their defense. But I'm holding out hope. The Knicks can climb. I think the Knicks could climb as high as 4. I don't know if they could surpass the Nuggets just because of the level of faith I have in Jokic in them, but they could climb up to 4 in my eyes if Mitchell Robinson comes back and the defense looks meaningfully different in the 20 to 25 minutes he's going to give you on a nightly basis. And I don't know, man. Am I crazy for thinking that the offense could be even better? Like, I think that I don't know if Bridges performs better.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Like, I think that the offense could be even better. So I'm very much in on the Knicks as a real contender. And I just need to see the defense step up. That's like you said, the Knicks have a red flag in the way that the top 5 teams I don't think have for me.
That's fair. And I really did consider Dallas being above New York, and maybe the most important thing is the depth, right? Because if the Knicks lose one of their guys to injury, one of their guys who are going to be playing 38 minutes a night for the season, I don't think they can come back from that. And Mitchell Robinson, one of the more injury-prone players in the NBA, it is vital to their season that he stays healthy. But I'm going to put my foot in the ground and take a pro-Knicks stance here because I'm seeing a lot of panic. I'm seeing a lot of people freaking out and saying that the Knicks suck. Not the case, in my opinion. As we just discussed with the Mavs, they've been really bad in clutch games. They're actually 8th in net rating right now. This is a really good basketball team. That starts with the fact that they are unequivocally a top 5 offense. Cat is playing his best offensive basketball ever, giving you 26.5 a night on 65% true shooting. You mentioned the spacing. He's been more effective, more efficient as a driver than ever. And I think that he and Brunson are a fringe top 5 offensive duo in basketball with really good supporting pieces around them, with really good spot-up shooting, with really good cutters. Josh Hart is leading the league in 2-point percentage right now, man. I mean, the guy has his limitations, but he knows where to be as a cutter, and he's in the best offensive situation of his life. All these guys are. So I'm extremely confident there. It really is incredible, dude. I mean, Brunson and Cat are both liable to go off for 45, 50 points any given night. And they're doing it in this 5-out offense where everybody around them can make shots. It's a terrifying offense to face.
Dude, and they just enhance each other so
100%.
much.
100%. And such diverse skill sets, right? You have your small, tough bucket getting guard. You have your big, extremely skilled center who can do work out of the post and isolation as a spot-up player. It's phenomenal. The ceiling for this team is going to come down to their defense. And really, the ceiling for this team, to me, Logan, largely comes down to 2 guys. Mitchell Robinson, and with him, the question is basically just the health. It's not a question of performance. The dude where we have the questions about performance is Mikal Bridges. And we just talked about the Knicks a few days ago, but we were really talking about how the Cat fit has looked so far. And there's been a lot of focus on Cat defensively, and he's had his issues, and he's not a good defensive center. The dude who has underwhelmed me more, though, defensively has been Mikal Bridges. I can't imagine, though, that he doesn't look better than this eventually defensively. I'm not expecting him to get back to 2022 Suns levels, but I've been really disappointed by his defensive performance so far. He took a step back in Brooklyn, a big step back, but my thought was always, okay, sure, well, he's going from being a role player offensively to all of a sudden having to carry the load of trying to score 25 points every night. Guys always take steps back defensively in those circumstances. But it hasn't gotten better in New York. And there's a couple things that have just horrified me watching him so far. His screen navigation has been bad. And he's just moving slowly on the defensive end. He's a couple years older, but there's no excuse for that when you're 28 years old and you're the 4th option offensively. Like, your job here is to lock in defensively, to cut offensively, to knock down spot-up jumpers offensively, get yourself a couple shots off the bounce a game, and that's it, right? It is to be a superhero role player, like what OG Anunoby is doing at an unbelievably high level, where he is still among the 7-8 best defensive players on the planet. Mikal has been below average defensively, and it's not good that that's the case 11 games into the season. Like I said, though, I just can't imagine that it doesn't get better. I do think some of it is effort, focus, which shouldn't be the case, but like we know that he has more tools than this. I personally didn't think that Mikal ever should have been second in DPOY voting, right? He's always had his defensive limitations. He's never been one who can guard bigger, stronger wings. He's never been the most impactful team defender, but at his best, this was one of the few dudes who you would say, okay, we can stick him on any slider perimeter player, 6'6" and under, and he's going to be phenomenal in that individual matchup. If he gets back to that, then I think that this is a team that can be an above average defense. Not even back to that. Again, just like significantly better than what we've seen. If he can just be an above average defensive player, then I think the perimeter defense is enough, and you get Mitchell Robinson back out there on the floor for 20 minutes a game. You need that both for the defense and the depth. And then with this offense, I think that's the third best team in the East because the talent here is still really overwhelming. I mean, the starting five is absurdly talented. So if they end up underachieving, I think a lot of that is going to be probably because of Mikal Bridges, because he has to be better than this defensively. I still think, though, I'm optimistic that it's going to get better from here. And I think at the end of the day, this offense is special, and that's a special punch they can throw, and this defense is going to be fine.
A couple of things. Do you think the Knicks overpaid for Bridges, or
of course.
Is it okay?
But they overpaid in the moment. There was never a question that Mikal Bridges in a vacuum was not worth 5 first-round picks. They did what they felt they had to do to go out there and give themselves a chance to win the title. Now, right now, it looks like more of an overpay. It looks like a deal that they shouldn't have made because he just hasn't delivered on the defensive end of the floor. But I'm not ready to take it there. I think that he's going to look better. And this is what teams do, right? You overpay when you feel like you are trying to win a title. And so I'm not ready to say like, oh, that was a terrible deal. They shouldn't have done that deal. Mikal just has to play better. And if he doesn't, that's on him. And that's a problem for this Knicks team.
I agree. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about his commitment to that end, because it's like, that's your role. You were a defensive specialist. And I don't know if it's like a frustration or like an ego thing with Brunson and Towns getting so many touches, but it's like they're just way better as offensive stars and centerpieces. It's like your role on this team should be clamps defense and doing little things offensively, and that's his ideal role in my opinion, because I think he got elevated into conversations where he didn't belong when he was in Brooklyn putting up the raw counting numbers, and people go, oh my God, he's an all-star. When you really dive into it, how much does he really impact winning as an offensive lead guy? That's not him, right? No. This is the ideal situation for him. And that's why I still am holding out hope, like you, that he's going to put it together. But I think it's going to take him really committing to getting back to that end. But I err on the side of he's going to figure it out. And if he does, with a healthy Mitchell Robinson, again, these are a lot of ifs. If Bridges puts it together, if Mitchell Robinson comes back fully healthy, that's a really deadly and dangerous team to fight in the playoffs. And again,
100%.
I don't love the depth, but 7 deep, the Knicks are as solid as anybody, man.
Totally.
Josh Hart, Deuce McBride, Mitchell Robinson.
Awesome.
That's scary.
They have crazy firepower. I mean, that was the thing about this team, right? Outside of Boston and probably OKC, and honestly maybe Denver, they had the most talented top-end group, the most talented starting 5, top 6, 7 guys in basketball. And depth is compromised. Mikal has to be better, but I'm not out on that vision.
We talk about the Knicks a lot, but I just wanted to give a shout-out to Josh Hart for playing phenomenal basketball to start this year, because I feel like he's playing awesome, right? I mean, hey, Mikal, take notes. That's a superstar role player, man.
Yeah, definitely. He's doing his job. The playmaking this year, the efficient finishing, everything but the shot has been there.
I would just feel bad if we did a Knicks segment and didn't bring Hart up, because he's playing awesome ball right now.
Yeah, no, shout out to the boy. The Emirates NBA Cup is here. You can win big getting in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All 30 teams split into 6 groups every Tuesday and Friday, playing for the right to advance in the single elimination in-season tourney, culminating in the NBA Cup championship in Vegas.
Get behind your favorite players and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the best place to bet NBA player props. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like picking how many points your favorite player will have. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick.
First time? Here's something special just for you. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook. Every point counts. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code NERDS. That's code NERDS for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Okay, so we've got the same 5 and 6. We just got them swapped. Who's in your 7 spot, Logan?
Man, dude, I agonized over 7 through 10. 7 through 10 is where it gets really interesting to me. I've got Golden State right now. Primarily because I think Steph Curry can be the guy that they need him to be. I believe in Steph. Buddy Hield has been better than Klay Thompson. It's not that long, but this is the best Golden State team since the title team. Like, Buddy Hield's been better than Klay. Elite defense on the back of Draymond Green, who is a top 5 defender in history. The people were not happy with that take, Carson, but I do agree.
I'm glad, man.
Draymond's a monster. Andrew Wiggins has returned to form on that end. Andrew Wiggins has been awesome this year. And the Warriors, more than any other team in basketball, probably have the best depth of any team in the league. I mean, they've got 9 guys that I haven't even mentioned yet that can swing a basketball game. I think they've got some of the best depth in the league, from Pods to Moody to Looney to TJD to Kuminga, Slow-Mo, GP2, Lindy Waters, and DeAnthony Melton. He's dealing with a sprained left ACL right now, but hopefully he's all right. Their flaws are still the flaws. They need more high-end offensive firepower to climb into that top contender tier. And I think I won't speak for you, but I still think that the odd man out to me is Jonathan Kuminga, that if I can swing him and package a pick or package him and another one of these role players to get that guy, I don't know who that guy is, I'm making that move because I do think with this level of defense, with this level of play that we're getting from Buddy Hield, with this level of Steph Curry that we're getting, excuse me, who is still one of the best offensive players on the planet, the window is very much open. And I hate doing this, Carson, because we talk so much damn basketball, man, and we've been doing this Warriors thing for 3-4 years now. It feels like we're like, make the move, don't make the move. The window's closed, the window's open. The window is very much open. And so that's what holds them back, and their size. But their size is less of a concern to me now because of the brand of basketball that they're playing, right? It's more of a matchup dependent thing. Because the tallest players on this roster are Looney and Trace Jackson-Davis, and that's where I'm still a little bit worried. But that's only going to come into play in certain matchups against really athletic or really big bigs. The bigger concern to me is getting that upper and firepower. But again, Buddy's been awesome. I believe in Steph. I believe in the defense. The depth is awesome. That's a lot of boxes. And
100%.
Unlike other teams, I don't have a red flag with Golden State. I mean, the red flag, if anything, is that second superstar creator. Yeah. But it's not like a glaring one, like even the Knicks defense at this point. Again, that's going to get better. That's probably not my best comparison, but Golden State checks a lot of boxes, and I think they're deserved top dog right now out of that next group.
I have them at 7 as well, and they're just checking all the key boxes for how is this season going to go for them. Steph is playing at an awesome level. He's playing significantly better than he did in the home stretch of last season. Biggest thing for me is just that he can stay sharp, stay at this level, not be overtaxed, not wear down as the season goes along at his age. But per 36 minutes, he's averaging 29.5 points, 8 assists on 65% true shooting. The guy is playing out of his mind, and he has taken over 3 of the last 4 games and outplayed the superstar opposite him and won these games for the Warriors in big moments. Draymond dominating defensively, playing at an even higher level than last year on that end. Like we said last show, talking about the Warriors, you put defense, you put depth, you put shooting, you put speed around Steph Curry and Draymond Green, 2 of the greatest anchors ever on their respective sides of the ball, a top 5 offensive player ever and a top 5 defensive player ever, and you're going to be awesome. That has been the case for more than a decade. Remarkably, it is still the case. And they're 3rd in offensive rating, they're 4th in defensive rating. Both those superstars on their respective side of the ball and the supporting pieces are doing their job. So I really like the Warriors. I do have some of the same concerns as you when it comes to them having a true contending ceiling. I do think they would need another high-end offensive weapon on the floor. I do think it would be good for them to be a little bit bigger, but honestly, I don't think they're going to address that. I think that's just a problem in like a Denver matchup if they were to have it. It's not a problem in an OKC matchup. Their speed and versatility on the perimeter is a very good thing. I can see an argument with the Dubs up to number 5. I think the top 4 teams for me are pretty rock solid, but the Knicks and the Mavs both have their flaws. The reason I have the Dubs at 7, everything is clicking for them right now. It does feel like they are playing at their ceiling, whereas the Knicks, the Mavs, those are 2 teams that I think have more talent and teams that I think are going to keep getting better and are going to look significantly better later on in the year. And it does just come down to that really high-end talent quotient for both of them, right? What a Luka and Kyrie can do offensively in a series when they have good pieces around them as they do, solid depth pieces. And what the Knicks' high-end starting 5 is capable of, particularly on the offensive end. I'm going to give those teams the edge because of that. But the Warriors are really good, man, and I don't think they're going anywhere. I don't think this is a flukish start. I've been really, really impressed by them.
I have too. And it's interesting that you bring up the high-end talent quotient because I think that's a thing that the team in my 8 spot probably has over Golden State, and that's Phoenix. Phoenix, their defense is what's going to hold them back, and that's why I have them below Golden State. Because even though they have the firepower, the KD, D-Book, Beal, right? I am concerned with a defense that has this many glaring liabilities, and that's why I have Golden State above them. Like Tyus Jones, Bradley Beal, Yusuf Nurkic, there's just weak points, right? It's like the Chiefs blocking that field goal against Denver, right? They singled out a weak point and they exploited it, and that's how they blocked a field goal. I think that Phoenix's defense is a little bit more exploitable. I got to give them credit. They've been way better at closing out games this year than last year. That has been the key difference. They were the worst fourth quarter team in basketball last year. They've been one of the best this year. And they just feel like a team that's really hard to put away. They've got a better identity. They're giving more effort on defense. Your boy Ryan Dunn has been a real difference maker. And even though they get blown out at the end of the Suns-Kings game, even how they clawed back in that game really impressed me. I looked away. They were down, I want to say by like 20. It was like a 60-90 or 60-80 kind of game. And I flipped off. I started cooking dinner. I was having a little, dance in my kitchen. I was like, oh yeah, easy Kings win. Oh, and also the Suns were coming off of a back-to-back too. But they were resilient. I look back up and it's damn near knotted up at 90, and the Suns have a chance in that game. And like I said, the Kings run away with that game. Their offense was just clicking. The Kings have an ability to do that because they have some real firepower too. Again, I cut the Suns a little slack because they're coming off of a back-to-back. The Kings were really fresh, but this is not a team that is just going to crumble and fall apart the way they did last year. And this is not a team that you're going to be ever able to really put away. I don't think leads really matter with the Suns. I think if they're down 15, down 20 in the third quarter, it's not a team that you can just hit the snooze button on and say, oh, we're going to run them out of the building, because they have the firepower to crawl back in games. And that's meaningful to me. But again, the reason that they're here at number 8, and the reason that I'm really going to struggle to put them above this spot. Like, I wonder if the Suns are going to peak at 8 in my contender hierarchy. I don't know what they could do to climb up any higher than this is that defense. And it's just a glaring red flag that a lot of other teams don't have. I like their top-end talent. I like their offensive firepower. I like Ryan Dunn. I don't like Tyus Jones and Bradley Beal and Nurkic as being like key components of closing lineups, and that's a problem to me.
I don't disagree. I have the Suns at number 8 as well. I do think their defense is definitely better than last year's, and they've struggled since KD got hurt. With him, though, this team was 8-1. They were 9th in defensive rating, and now he's out. Beal is also out, so they're struggling. They were winning a lot of clutch games. They were 6-0 in clutch games when KD was out there. So, although it's great to see that where they were awful last year, they've been great this year, we're also talking about a sample size that's 30 minutes of basketball there, so I don't want to be overly moved by that. Even with KD, this team was 11th in net rating, but they are clearly improved. I really think that Royce O'Neal and Ryan Dunn have made this a better basketball team. They have filled in the most glaring gap on this team, which was athletes, defenders, dogs, who can also play capable offense, who can knock down shots. And that's what both those guys are doing. Offensively, they also have addressed one of their issues because they're just taking a significantly higher volume of threes. They're taking in, making more of them. Fourth in makes and attempts from beyond the arc this year. We talked about last year, when you are existing on such a mid-range heavy diet, as skilled as your top-end guys may be, that's just a hard way to make a living as an elite offense. You can be a good one, you're not going to be an elite one. But they've improved there, and they have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, so they do have that really top-end talent. The distinction that I'll make, I think the Warriors have a higher ceiling on both sides of the ball because of their three-point volume offensively, because of how well things are flowing around Steph, but I think they have a much higher defensive ceiling than the Suns. The thing with the Suns that still concerns me is, although I think they can be a slightly above average defense now, better than last year, offensively, they don't have the ceiling of the Warriors. They don't have the ceiling of the Mavs. They don't have the ceiling of the Knicks. The thing when we talk about superstar quotient with like a Luka versus a KD is how completely Luka can control the game and how he can impose himself physically and get wherever he wants on the floor and then also make every single pass in the book. Like, that to me is just more reliably dominant than what you get from KD and Book, where we've seen in certain matchups, right, they can be overwhelmed athletically and they can really rely on their tough shot making, and that can be off. And adding Tyus Jones doesn't fix that. They still have Nurk on the floor, which isn't great on either side of the ball, in my opinion. So they just still have the same limitations in terms of ceiling on both ends, where I think they're improved, but they can't be elite offensively or defensively, in my opinion. And that's why they're here at number 8. Really good basketball team, doesn't have the same upside of the teams above them, in my opinion. Who do you have at number 9, Logan?
Another team that probably isn't the right timing to make this take. I've got the Sixers at number 9. And
wow, you and I are in lockstep, dude.
That's crazy.
We have one difference, and it was flipping the Mavs and Knicks by one spot. I have the Sixers at 9 as well.
We have yet to see this team at full health. You know, PG's finding his footing, and I think he's looked a lot better recently. I think the first games were rough. He's looked better. Maxey's looked good when he's healthy. Again, he's been carrying a really tough burden on his shoulders, and Embiid struggled in his first game back. I think he's going to play his way into form, but I really like the athletic wing depth that the Sixers have flanking their superstars. I think their superstars complement each other. I like the distribution. Again, I'm still working in theoreticals with Philadelphia, which is what sucks, right? Because we haven't seen them at full health and because Embiid hasn't looked good. But again, at full strength, I like the distribution. Embiid is your top dog, Maxey is your number 2, and then PG doing the little things at number 3. But again, I like their wing depth. Yabusele, that dude's big as hell, man. That dude is huge. Like,
he's big. Yeah,
he's round. I mean, he's just like kind of a mismatch. You just don't see guys built like that in the league nowadays, man. You know, an undersized big like that, but really strong, is going to crash the glass, can impact the game defensively, and can sometimes hit threes. But Oubre, Martin on the wings, right? Drummond is an athletic guy who can. I think they're going to be a problem just in grimy games, right? Just defensively, athletically, on the glass, they can all impact games. And I like that from my role players. I think it's I think it's highly unlikely that this team even makes a conference finals run just because of their situation, right? They're 2-9, and I think seeding is somewhat important. You know, in an ideal scenario, right, you just somehow avoid Boston. You somehow avoid New York. You somehow avoid Cleveland. And I think the matchup that they draw is ultimately going to determine their ceiling. Cleveland, I don't like for Philly. Just having Mobley get matched up against, having Embiid get matched up against a Mobley and an Allen. New York is probably a better draw, just because I think they could disrupt them a little bit more offensively, and I think Embiid could have his way with Cat. I still don't love that.
I don't know if Embiid has his way with Cat.
And even that way, I say that probably, but like even Embiid can be
It's kind of the
passive.
best possible matchup for Cat, right? I mean, you're just asking him to guard in isolation, guard in the post against another big body. That's where he does his best as a one-on-one defender. It's not as much about rim protection there, or guarding in space.
Well, that's why I say like maybe Embiid would have his way. It's again that's
I mean,
why
he's still Embiid versus Karl Anthony Towns. I want to be clear, but I'm saying for Cat,
no,
it's
this
a
is a much
relatively
better
good matchup, as we saw. I mean, Embiid was horrible against the Knicks the other day.
Yeah, that's why I say the matchup is going to determine what this team can do, and that's why Philly's down at number 9. Some people probably wouldn't even have Philly in the top 10 because again they've had such a slow start. It's really unlikely. And that's why Philly's down at number 9. Preseason, I probably would have had Philly higher. I wouldn't have had Golden State in my top 10. I wouldn't have had Phoenix close. Philly would have been damn near my top 5. But the reasons that I think that Philly's going to have problems climbing higher, just general health concerns.
Yeah.
Right? Maxey dealing with issues. Embiid can never be healthy. PG has struggled with health. And just the fact that this is a brand new overhauled roster. I like the supporting cast, but it's like all of these guys are learning how to play together. They have no continuity. Everybody is brand new.
Yeah.
And so that's why they're down here. But they have the talent quotient.
Absolutely.
It's Embiid. It's Embiid, man. I could see Embiid going superhuman.
Mm-hmm.
He was at 70%, dropping a 50 burger against the Knicks last year in the playoffs and almost willed them to a first-round victory over them. I could see Embiid doing something like that, but I wouldn't bet on it. That's why they're down at number 9.
It's a special upside that they have, though. We were just talking about this with Luka versus KD, right? These are both phenomenal players, but Luka can reach that level where he can outplay just about anybody on the planet opposite him and completely control the game offensively in all its facets and just dominate overall. Embiid, it's the ability to completely dominate on both ends when he's at his best. KD has been amazing this year. I'm not trying to take away from him. It's just he can't physically impose himself in that way. He doesn't dominate both ends. He's not that level of a genius playmaker at this stage in his career. Well, he never has been that as a playmaker. And so that's what Philly has with Embiid. And that's what they have with their big 3, man. I mean, it's just a star-studded group. They have 3 dudes who can play at a top 30 level, and they have 1 dude who can play at a top 5 level. And I think the 3 dudes, honestly, have skill sets that complement each other really well. And I don't mind what they've done with the role players around those guys with limited resources. You mentioned the athleticism, the defensive-minded guys. Their ceiling is absolutely higher than this, and I'm not taking them off of this list, and I'm not putting them lower than this because everybody below them is very flawed. And the Sixers' best punch is just way better than the teams that I have below them, like way better. But this team just kind of makes me feel sick, man. Like they just kind of make me feel unwell because everything is going wrong for them. And the probability that they get to the playoffs and they're healthy, that just feels increasingly low to me. I mean, it feels very, very low. And PG's been awful for the most part. Embiid was horrible in his return. Like, it's very small sample size. I'm not concerned about that long term. I'm just saying they just make me feel bad up to this point. The vibes are disgusting with this team. But I'm not going to fully write them off when they haven't been healthy once all year. Like, let's wait until we see the Sixers before we make any decisive statements about what they can't do, because I think there's going to be a stretch when if those 3 dudes are all out there on the floor, I mean, they could easily have like a 20-5 stretch of the season, right, where they are just racking up wins. My concern is just, when is that going to happen? Is that going to happen for 25 games in a row? I don't know. I can't be confident in that. I do want to shout out Jared McCain, though, because that guy is balling out, dude. Last 4 games, no Maxey, giving you 25.5 a night on 61% true shooting.
Dude, he's just a really good guard to have alongside Embiid. Like, specifically in that game with Embiid, considering how much defensive attention he takes and how much, like, McCain can get into the lane. Really, he's a really smart point guard. He gets in the lane. He can shoot. He's a really good guy to have alongside Embiid, man.
Yeah, I've been impressed with his driving ability. He's got kind of that short, stocky build, and I agree. I think that he's just very sound. He makes solid decisions, but the shooting was always the biggest thing with him as a prospect. That's been the biggest thing. He's jacking up threes, and he's making a lot of them, but he's been good, and so that's another depth piece who you feel like you can trust. It's going to come down to getting their dudes on the floor. That's it with Philly. And I'm just way less confident in that happening than I am with any other team in basketball who are in these conversations. Last spot, Logan, number 10. Who you got?
I've got the Lakers in my 10 spot, and I don't think I could have them off my list because of the top-end talent. I'm sure Lakers haters are probably sick of it. Yeah, but Anthony Davis is playing like an MVP candidate. LeBron James can play like a top 5 player when he needs to, and you've got that kind of punch. I don't know if I could leave you off this list. Now, there's a reason the Lakers are at number 10, and they're not higher on this list. The defense, they're 25th in defensive rating right now. They have the third worst transition defense in basketball, and they have 2 glaring weak points, and that's D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves. It's kind of been their big issue past couple of years, right? Among other things, but the depth isn't great, and it's basically just LeBron and AD. I mean, it's really the case for the Lakers at this 10 spot. Like D'Lo and Austin are fine offensive guards, and D'Lo can have his nights, and I like Dalton Connect.
Austin's more than fine now. Austin's fine as hell. Austin's been really good.
He's
a hooper, bro. He's a White Boy of the Year candidate. Peyton Pritchard is the front runner at this point.
Ooh,
damn,
over Christian Brown?
Bro, Peyton Pritchard just puts his nuts on the table and he makes 8 threes in a row and he says deal with it. That's hard.
The thing that separated Dante DiVincenzo was his fade, right? It's what put him over the top, and I think that's what ultimately does it for Peyton Pritchard. It's the
phenomenal
cut.
fade.
It's the cut.
So clean.
Yeah, I don't really think the Lakers are serious, but again, it's like running into the Cincinnati Bengals in the wild card round for the NFL, right? Damn, I do not want to see Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase come playoff time. Same thing with the Lakers. Damn, I do not want to see AD and LeBron come playoff time. It's as simple as that. That's why they're number 10.
I get it. The Lakers are actually number 11, and I did really consider putting them at number 10. AD has played even better than I would have hoped for and expected. LeBron has locked in and has been playing some pretty phenomenal basketball as of late. That gives them a super high ceiling. And Austin has been really good offensively. This offense is awesome. I think that it is a fringe top 5 sort of offense, as I said before the year after their opening night performance. They're really, really good, really dangerous there. The defense has been worse than I expected, though. I expected mediocre defense. We're getting bad defensive results. 25th in defensive rating. Abysmal in transition. And how does that improve? When you have a complete lack of perimeter athleticism, when you just have this culture of apathy when it comes to getting back defensively that JJ Redick hasn't been able to correct. Like, yeah, that could get better in the playoffs. I don't think that their defense is this bad, but I do think it's a problem. And also their bench has been worse than I expected. Shout out to Dalton Connect because he is a dude and he is super pro-ready offensively, and we're seeing it. But I thought both Max Christie and Gabe Vincent would be better. They've been horrible offensively. So the team I have in my number 10 spot is Minnesota, and I've been disappointed with Minnesota, and I have some real questions about them. And I did think about just taking the Lakers because they have LeBron and AD, and they have this offense. And if they can just play capable defense, then that's a really good basketball team. And that's in there, I think. But it was ultimately really the edge in terms of depth and the edge in terms of defense that made me lean Minnesota. But just having dudes off the bench who can swing games compared to having all the issues off the bench that the Lakers do, that's a big difference. But I'm worried about the Timberwolves, dude. This is the slow start out west that does legitimately concern me. I expected this team to regress before the year, but it's been rough. I mean, they just lost back-to-back games to the Portland Trailblazers, dude. That's not good. I'm really concerned about Mike Conley right now. He's giving you 7 points per game on 31% from the field, and it looks like he's regressed. I mean, it looks like he has potentially hit a wall at his age, which is not good because he was so important to this team last year. He was so important with just being a reliably elite shooter for a team that needed that sort of spacing and shooting, and for being a really good decision maker, right? When Ant couldn't consistently be that, and when Ant wasn't on the floor, there just wasn't a skilled ball handler who could stabilize this offense. Conley was super important to this team offensively, and he's really, really struggling right now. I'm not going to say that it's permanent, but it is absolutely a red flag. And the Timberwolves are not the same defense as last year. And I think that The loss of Cat is part of that, ironically, with all of the negative attention Cat's gotten defensively at the 5 for New York. At the 4, when he's playing alongside Rudy Gobert and great perimeter defenders, well then, right, he's a great rebounder in that spot. He's a really good post defender. If he's your second rim protector, well, then he's not bad there, whereas Julius Randle doesn't do that at all. And so I do think that they've taken a step back. And I wonder if there ever comes a point where they're like, we're benching Conley for Nickeil Alexander-Walker. We saw Nickeil Alexander-Walker start one game. He's playing really well, but offensively, I don't know that that's tenable. Like, Conley needs to play better. He needs to play better for this team because they need that shooting and playmaking. They're not the same rebounding team as last year without Cat. Julius Randle, I do trust less than Karl Anthony Towns. I think he's a worse basketball player. He started the year super efficient, and I have appreciated that he hasn't forced a lot of bad shots all year, and he's made an effort to fit into this offense and pick his spots. But he's been struggling over the last few games, and I think he was always going to come back to earth. He wasn't just taking good shots. He was also shooting the hell out of the ball early in the year, and we know that that's always very erratic with him. The decision-making's been better. That's the most encouraging thing to me because that's always been such a red flag with Randle, but he's not Karl Anthony Towns as a talent on either side of the ball ultimately in this role at the 4 spot. Ant, God bless him, he's going to continue to come back to earth as a shooter. I know there were a lot of people who were proclaiming that Ant was now like one of the best pull-up shooters on the planet. That was never my feeling. I think that he's better than last year. And listen, I mean, he's still putting up almost 12 a game on 42% from deep up to this point. What I'm telling you is it's going to continue to come back to earth. The 0 for 9 game was not just like a, oh my God, complete anomaly. He's definitely better, but he didn't become a Steph Curry level pull-up shooter, right? And this offense just needs some of those heroics from Ant. And he's ultimately not taken the leap as a playmaker that I maybe would have hoped for, not necessarily expected, but that this offense needed if they were going to take a real leap. So I just kind of look at them and I'm like, what do they do really well? Because last year they were an elite defense, and now they're 9th in defensive rating, and the offense has always been average, and they're still average. They're 13th in offensive rating right now. So it's really the depth. It's the depth, and I still think that they are a good defense, right? And I really like Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and obviously what Gobert does for you always on that end. So they're just a more complete team than the Lakers. They're less reliant on heroics from their best guys, but it is close for me between these two teams because I know what I'm getting from LeBron and AD. I'm just really worried about that defense and depth. With the Timberwolves, it's like, I know what I'm getting with the depth. I know what I'm getting with the defense, but the defense isn't the same, and I have concerns about the offense.
Yeah, I think rightfully so. I mean, with Conley, with Ant on a night-to-night basis, with Randle, they got worse. I mean, the Timberwolves got worse. It's as simple as that. Do you think
Definitely.
Is there a way that Conley plays poor enough that we get meaningful Rob Dillingham minutes this year?
It's an interesting question, dude. Conley has been really bad. I don't think he can be worse than this. I'm going to say probably not, though. I mean, at the end of the day, Conley's still a reliably elite shooter. Or he should
really good,
be. He hasn't been so far.
He's a really good passer still, too, you know.
And he's a really good decision maker. Dillingham, I think, also doesn't have the same length, at least, that Conley does defensively. He doesn't have that same IQ. They're both going to have their limitations on that end. But I can't imagine Dillingham playing an important role for this team. I think that obviously he's a very talented offensive player, but I'd be surprised because also I think defensively, I mean, he would just get brutalized out there. So I'm worried about Minnesota, dude. They are the team out west in this mix that I'm most concerned about. But also, you know, I am concerned about the Lakers because I thought they'd be like probably the 5th best team out west, and I've got them a couple spots lower than that right now because kind of the swing factors for them have very much gone in the wrong direction. Let's talk some football, Logan, because we had a game last night, and it was the rare, really meaningful Thursday night football game between the 7-3 Commanders and the then 7-2 Philadelphia Eagles, divisional matchup. Philly comes out with a win, 26-18. They are now on a 6-game win streak. How impressed are you by these Eagles right now?
I'm very, very impressed. I think the Eagles are a real contender, man. Where do you think they rank among the most talented offenses in football? Like, would you take? Because I mean, at full strength, like Saquon is one of the handful of offensive players of the year. I mean, Saquon.
I think he's offensive player of the year right now. Honestly,
over Derrick Henry. I think he makes
just
a
slightly.
good case.
I mean, I thought they were neck and neck when we did our midseason awards, and now Saquon's been unbelievable the last 2 weeks. Derrick Henry was meh last week.
I agree. I mean, Saquon, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. When you add in the offensive line, I mean, with Mailata returning, Juergens has been awesome. Landon Dickerson has been awesome. Lane Johnson is still a beast. Mekhi Becton is pretty good. Like, would you take them or the Lions?
In terms of raw talent, or in terms of who do I think is the better offense?
Who would you rather have as your offense? I think I'm still taking
I'd rather have
Detroit.
the Lions. I'd rather have the Lions because I think that their identity is so strong. I think that they have a real edge in terms of play calling because I think that Ben Johnson is just that dude. I think what the Lions do is so consistent. But in terms of talent, like just all around position group to position group, you could argue that Philly's number one in football.
I think so too, and I credit Kellen Moore too. Kellen Moore's been awesome for the Eagles.
He's definitely
this year
good
too.
He's just not Ben Johnson in my opinion.
The Niners or Philadelphia?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, Ayuk is done for the year. I think Philly, and Philly's definitely better in the trenches.
What about Buffalo?
More talented? Philly, 100%.
I mean,
I'm viewing talented as like all around, right? I'm not just saying, okay, you have a Josh Allen, and so that outweighs everything else in terms of how much I want you as my offense. I'm thinking in terms of the 11 dudes, how great are they on average across the board? And Philly's crazy there.
Yeah, I think it all factors. I mean, the only reason I bring up the Bills is because of the Josh Allen factor, right? It's like how much would you rather have him versus the totality? But
yeah, well, in that case, I mean, call me crazy. If I were going into a playoff game today and both groups were healthy, I'd take the Bills' offense. But I think the Eagles' offense is more talented.
But that's what I'm getting at. I think this team is top 5 undeniably, and when you have that kind of firepower, you just have an edge over other teams, and I really like that, right? The fact that Jalen Hurts doesn't have to do a whole lot. That's a key to me. When we're talking about the QBs that you need to limit their impact to win football games, people can take issue with this, but it's Goff, it's Sam Darnold, Jalen Hurts. I put them all basically in the same tier. I want their jobs to be as simple as possible. And the benefit of all those guys, they have great offensive minds behind them. Darnold with Kevin O'Connell, Goff with Ben Johnson, Hurts now with Kellen Moore, and talent all around them. And I feel that same way about Hurts. The big difference is I do think the Eagles have crushed this offseason defensively. I was really underwhelmed at the start of the season. And it's natural, right? It'll take some time. They drafted 2 rookie defensive backs in Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell. And it's going to take some time for those guys to get acclimated. They added Zach Bond, right? It's going to take some time for those guys to gel and figure it out, but I was really disappointed by the defensive line, too. Everything is clicking. Zach Bond had 14 tackles last night, was everywhere. He had an awesome PBU, too, on a crucial third down, diving to make the breakup. Brandon Graham still has juice up front. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis have been disruptive. But the defensive backs have made all the difference. That was the biggest hole to me from last year. And now with Slay, with C.J. Gardner-Johnson returning, with Quinion Mitchell being shut down, with Reed Blankenship giving you some juice from the safety spot, like, the Eagles don't have any holes.
No.
And that's a meaningful difference to me. That's why I think I had Philly. I want to say I had Philly over Green Bay in my last power rankings. Philly's closing the gap a little bit with Minnesota to me. Minnesota and Philly are neck and neck, and the difference is the offense. Now, I'm not going to dress it up because I've praised Philadelphia. Their flaws are still their same 2 flaws. They're not a favorite to me in the NFC. I'm not going to put them above the Lions for 2 reasons. Nick Sirianni is their head coach. I have no faith in Nick Sirianni. Shout out to him for going bald, and they've ripped off 6 straight. That was the catalyst, man.
Huge for the community.
Just had to go bald. And Jalen Hurts is their quarterback. Jalen Hurts has been super inconsistent this year. And I don't want to just do this attribution thing where we give Hurts credit for winning games. He's winning it on the back of the Eagles being a really talented team. Now, the Eagles should have blown the Commanders out in this game. Jake Elliott, misses 2 field goals. They should have dog walked him in this one. But the Eagles are legit. I think they're a real contender. I could see them winning the NFC. They're not my favorite because of Sirianni and Hurts, and it's going to stay that way. I don't know if there's anything they can do to get me to shake that. Hurts is inconsistent. Sirianni is a bad head coach. Those are still my red flags.
That's fair. At the same time, though, I'm probably a little higher on Hurts right now than you. Now, if we're holding them up to the Detroit standard, okay. But coming into this year, I felt like the Eagles had 3 big questions. Nick Sirianni as their head coach, Jalen Hurts and his struggles last year, and this defense, which was wildly disappointing last year. Since the bye week on this 6-game win streak, you couldn't have asked for better versions of the defense. And really, Jalen Hurts. Hurts has been inconsistent, but a lot of that is he started the year poorly, but he's been really good since. Sirianni, they haven't moved me with at all. I'm not higher on Nick Sirianni now, but those other 2 question marks, they've really answered in an impressive way. I do think it's a top 5 offense. Hurts, since the bye, dude, he has 2 turnovers in the last 6 weeks. He had 7 turnovers in the first 4 weeks. He's averaging on this win streak 9.7 yards per pass attempt, has a 118 passer rating, and 17 total touchdowns. Now, to be fair,
can I
a lot of those
something?
are rushing touchdowns that he's stealing from Saquon at the 1. But he's got 8 passing touchdowns.
Are you really moved by
I'm
Jalen
encouraged.
Hurts?
I'm encouraged. I thought that he was super disappointing last year, and I thought that he was disappointing again to start this year. Am I going to put him back in like top 10 conversations where he was in 2022? No, I'm not. But do you not feel better about Hurts right now than you did last year or 3-4 weeks into this year? Because I do.
I feel a little bit better, but Hurts is still firmly in this Darnold, Goff, Brock Purdy tier where I don't look at you as an elevator. I look at you as a beneficiary of your surrounding pieces.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, I definitely think he's better than Darnold. I definitely trust him more than Darnold.
I agree.
I would say that I trust Goff more, which I know is crazy because Goff just had his 5-pick game, but he's pretty damn good in his role, just as a pocket passer. Hurts has the physical tools to have more upside, but we've also seen the decision-making issues with him. That's been an issue for 2 years. It's just he's in a good stretch right now. So I feel better about Jalen Hurts than I did. I'm not as high on him as some people still. Like I said, dude, this is the crazy stat. With his rushing touchdowns, 6 of them are not just 1-yard rushing touchdowns. They're 1-yard rushing touchdowns after Saquon got them down to the 1. That poor bastard Saquon, if he was just getting the rushing touchdowns that he's earning, he'd be the undisputed offensive player of the year. It's ridiculous. But the offense is humming right now, and the defense, I mean, has just been huge. I would say I've been more moved by the defense because I expected the offense to be really good, even with some questions about Hurts. They're just too talented. Since the bye, they're allowing 211 yards per game and 14 points per game. On the year, they are now first in pass yards per attempt allowed. They are 7th in rush yards per attempt allowed. They are 3rd in overall yards allowed per drive, and they are 4th in points allowed per drive. Secondary, way better. You mentioned Mitchell and DeJean, both studs. They nailed the offseason with those 2 guys, and the dudes up front are balling, and particularly balling against the run. This is exactly what you need to see from this group. One of the most talented defenses in football over the last few years, and yet last year they managed to be one of the worst defenses in football. And they didn't get off to a great start to this year, but they've been dominant in the last 6 weeks. They faced some shitty offenses. They've also faced a couple good offenses. The Bengals they kept in check. The Commanders they kept in check. So I'm excited to see how they face against a couple of tough games coming up. They got the Rams, they got the Ravens, but this team is really, really good. And I'll take it a step further, Logan. I would take them over Minnesota right now. And I've been a Minnesota guy. I just think the offense is overwhelmingly talented. I think the defense is playing as well as Minnesota's. I do trust Hurts more than Darnold in that conversation. This team has always had all the talent in the world, right? They've always been a top 3 talented team in football. That talent is clicking now, and it has them looking like a problem. I'm not wiping away the concerns that I've had about this team, but I mean, they've erased a lot of them, or they've outweighed a lot of those concerns with just how awesome they've been.
No, I mean, I think that Philly and Minnesota would be neck and neck. I'm just like they're probably side by side to me in my power rankings. I think they might have been last week when we did them too. My thing is, it's the same thing with Hurts and Darnold and probably Goff. I don't want them, not even Goff. I would have Goff above those three guys. I don't want them leading a game-winning drive. I don't want to have to go down the field with 2 minutes left with Hurts or Darnold under center. Hurts is really good, is Joe Ferguson. But when you need him to be Josh Allen, I'm serious. Man, I think Hurts' job is so easy. Hit A.J. Brown.
Is crazy, though.
Hit A.J. Brown on a slant route. Toss the ball to Saquon Barkley. Like, that team, that offense is so disgustingly loaded.
100%.
It's just...
No, I think that Hurts gets overrated. I agree. But he's playing much better football than he was when it felt like he was a major red flag for this team. Now I agree, but he's not holding them back from conversations with other loaded teams that also have solid quarterbacks who you have some questions about.
He's not. The same thing, him and Darnold, I just do not want to have to put in a position where they need to go and win me the game.
Right, but there's no team in football right now that has overwhelmingly stacked team, complete roster, and elite quarterback. You have the teams that are good rosters and have elite quarterbacks, like the best teams in the AFC, right? Maybe you could argue the Chiefs are. They're certainly an elite defense, but they do not have elite offensive talent. So you have them, you have the Ravens, you have the Bills, then you have the NFC cream of the crop where it's totally elite stacked rosters, Lions, Eagles, Vikings. You could throw the Niners in there if you want, but questions at quarterback. So it's tough for me to be like, yeah, Jalen Hurts is a disqualifier from these contending conversations because it's like, well, the Lions have Jared Goff, and I do like Jared Goff more, but I can't pretend that there's a massive delta in terms of my faith in those guys respectively. So I've been moved by Philly. I mean, they've always been in my top 7, top 8 teams this entire year, but I think that they might be in that top 5 next time we do our power rankings. And they are my number 2 team in the NFC. How about the Commanders, Logan? On the flip side of this, they've dropped 2 straight now, lost a heartbreaker to your Steelers, and then they lose this one more convincingly. Are you worried about them?
I mean, not worried. I mean, I guess it just depends on how high you really were on the Commanders. My big issue in this game was Dan Quinn's decision to not kick the field goal.
Of course it was.
Towards the end of this game. Man, I hate you analytics nerds, man. Let's go and, hey, look, I have a great idea. How about we score a touchdown every possession?
So, Logan,
genius.
Logan, let's just walk through this, right? Now that we have our crystal ball and we see how the rest of the game panned out, the only possible way for the Commanders to actually send this game to overtime would have been if they went for it and then they scored a touchdown there. That is the reality. That is the reality. They had to put up 26 points.
What planet do you live on, man?
What are you talking about? Logan, they couldn't get stops on either of the last 2 possessions. They couldn't get stops on the last 5 possessions of the game. They go up 13-12. Oh, congratulations. Next thing you know, you're blink and they're down 26-13. They couldn't get stops. They had to put up points.
I can't with you people, bro.
First of all, that sounds kind of racist.
I can't.
You're throwing that around.
You white people, man. All right, look, dude.
What about what I'm saying does not make sense?
Hear me.
You understand that's the case, right? They could have lost 26-21 if they took the field goal. Yippee! Oh, yay! It was 3 points closer. They couldn't get stops. They had to put up points.
It changed all the momentum in the football game. If you take the lead with 13-12, you kick the ball off. You kick the ball off, your defense resets. Okay, think about the difference in the situation. Think about the difference in the situation on your next drive when you get the ball. Okay, say the Eagles go and they score the touchdown and they go up 19, right? The difference is they're up 20-13 instead of up 10-19 where you're down 2 scores. So when you're down 2 scores, you feel like, oh my God, this is almost an insurmountable lead. We have to come back and get 2 touchdowns. You just have excess pressure on your shoulders. You lost all momentum you had in that football game. If you're down 13-20, you can drive down.
It wouldn't have made a difference. They weren't getting stops. I just think you look at this from such a results-based perspective, and you only look at the downside. Like, yeah, of course, it's worse to not convert than to make a field goal.
You have the lead in the fourth quarter. Is worth taking. You have the lead in the fourth quarter. You have momentum. You're playing with the lead.
What are we talking about with momentum here? What is the momentum of going up 13-12?
You have a
the same
lead.
field position they would have had. They couldn't get a stop. They couldn't get a stop.
Don't get me wrong,
13 points was not enough to win this football game.
I don't disagree. The Commanders should have got fucking spanked in this game.
Yeah.
Jake Elliott missed 2 field goals. The Commanders aren't a good team.
Oh,
they
now
aren't.
He's being mean. Now
They're a
being
mid
mean.
team. They are mid.
They might be mid plus.
You look at this.
Dude.
You think I look at this as results based because then they got their ass smacked. Look, the Commanders shouldn't have won this game regardless. My thing is, it just gives you, at a point in that game, it's like the seas are calm. When you get stuffed on 4th down, one, they didn't get pushed on 3rd down with Brian Robinson. They don't get pushed on a designed run. I don't know. Jaden kind of fumbles the snap.
Well, that was just a busted play once he bobbled the snap.
My thing is, right there,
Logan,
the Washington doesn't take the lead right there, right? The Eagles take the ball over. They get all the momentum. They immediately march down the field. My thing is, if you take the field goal, you reset. Commanders have the lead by 1 point. You kick the ball off, and you reset. The seas are calm. When you don't take the lead, you are now trailing. It's just like this impending doom where it's just everything is compounding. It changes the tide of that game. It changes the tide of that game to me where you just don't lose.
I really think it did.
You don't lose all that momentum.
Look,
The momentum
I don't actually have a
right
strong
there,
feeling
I
about this
think changed
decision.
it.
I don't have a strong feeling because, look, if it were
What would you have
4th
done?
and half a
What would
yard,
you have done right there?
Hold on, let me talk through this. I'm fine with going for it. Honestly, to me, that's kind of a toss-up situation because I don't disagree. I mean, taking the lead in a football game is valuable, but also I think, we can certainly say with retrospect, but we can also say realistically looking back, like that wasn't going to be enough. So to me, that's like a 50-50 decision. What's a little annoying to me, though, is it had ultimately almost no bearing on the outcome of this football game, right? The Commanders didn't lose because they went for it there instead of taking a field goal. They lost because they couldn't get a stop on 5 straight possessions. They lost because they were almost doubled in terms of yardage. They lost because Jaden Daniels threw an interception on the series right after this, right? Like that decision to me had a very, very minimal impact on this game. And I do think if you consider what were their paths to winning this game, they go up 13-12. Yeah, that feels good. But, like, again, they couldn't get a stop. They were going to allow a touchdown either way. We can say that, right? They didn't give them better field position. They gave them the ball at the 23-yard line. I don't think that their defense was completely deflated because of that. Their defense was outclassed all game.
I think it just added a bunch of unnecessary pressure that wouldn't have been on the defense's shoulders. Jaden is feeling extra pressure in that game where he feels like we got to get it all right back now, and he throws a pick. I just think I'm always frustrated when coaches do this. I'm old school. I'm taking the points. I'm taking the lead
Logan,
in the fourth
you
quarter.
understand, if I'm not mistaken, the Commanders were 11 of 12 on 4th down coming into this game. We never hear about those decisions from you. You don't talk about it. Like, great offenses succeed a vast majority of the time in situations where they go for it. The Bills are above 90% on 4th down. The Chiefs are at 90% on 4th down.
I like taking the lead in fourth quarters. That's what I like doing.
That's great, man. And then you allow 2 touchdowns consecutively and you throw an interception. Doesn't matter.
I'm just
you
saying,
don't have
man,
a chance to win the game if you only take 3 there and then you let
I
up
think
2
it
touchdowns.
changed. I legitimately think it changed the tide of that game.
I don't agree with that.
You had momentum, and you just added pressure on your shoulders. It just makes those situations.
Momentum.
The Commanders aren't a team that they're a young team. You see it in 3rd and longs. You see it in. It's hard. I can't quantify this to you. We're not getting anywhere. We're not making any. I say we move on. We're not making any headway here.
For the Commanders, I do think that we've seen their limitations, and I thought that we saw their limitations in this game because they really did get dogged, right? You mentioned Philly missed 2 field goals. This was a 16-point game with 30 seconds left. The final score here is pretty fake. They got outgained by 170 yards. They did have their chance to win it. I mean, not really, but if they were going to be in this game, right, it was at that moment when they're in this game in the 3rd and early 4th quarter. But, I mean, they were just completely outplayed the entire time. And then next possession, you need a clutch drive. Jaden throws an immediate interception. It's tough. Jaden is really, really good. He's still a rookie quarterback. He's still a guy who excels in certain situations, right? When you can get ahead of the chains on early downs, and you can run the ball and you can set up the screen game, and then you're looking at third and shorts, right? He's really great in those spots. Or you get a second and short and you can take a shot play. But as a pure passer, is he at the level that you need out of the pocket to where he is built to orchestrate drive after drive in those situations or really deliver on third and longs? I don't think so, especially against a really good defense, and that's what we see here, right? And just overall, this offense has come back to earth a little bit. It's crazy. They're still first in points per drive on the year, but over the last few weeks, that's come down to earth, and the defense just isn't good with this team, right? They couldn't get a single stop in the second half.
The two biggest differences to me in these last 2 weeks have been two things with Jaden, and it's the fact that this offense has been in more third and longs than usual, and that he's had to face more pressure than normal from the Eagles and the Steelers, and that's made all the difference. That's what's halted this electric offense. And I do think that Jaden was getting elevated into conversations that he didn't belong in, and I don't blame people. We're excited. It's a rookie quarterback. We want him to be top 10, but that was the reality. I wanted to see him take some different game scripts, different game situations. You need him to convert third and longs. You need him to deal with pressure more, and it just doesn't. I think that's what the Commanders need to do a better job of. Just don't get in those situations where you need him to convert these these third and longs and stuff like that. But I still think the Commanders' offense is good. I still think Jaden is good, and the Commanders' defense is better than last year. We're just waiting on I want to see what this team looks like with Marshawn Lattimore. He also wasn't out there. That Noah dude, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He's a scrub. Igba.
Yeah.
How the hell? He's a bum. That dude gets cooked every game.
Yeah, the defense is still rough in Washington, and I don't disagree on Jaden and his limitations. What about the GOAT rookie quarterback conversation? Because, I mean, up to the midway point, I think that he had the production. But
Stroud's been better at converting big. Stroud's a better pocket passer than Jaden is as a rookie. Like,
Agreed.
there's a vertical element on tape that has – and don't get me wrong, Jaden's hit on some big shot plays this year.
Oh, yeah.
Stroud was hitting boom, boom, boom. Stroud just – I would rather have Stroud if I was trailing, but it's still close. It's not like I'm ready to rewrite the history books on Jaden. Jaden is still a special scrambler, right? I just think when we're looking at, like, pure pocket passing ability and that – I'd probably still take Stroud, but I'm not ready to rewrite all of Jaden's rookie year off of 2 games.
No, definitely not. I think that you hit on the key. It's like CJ has that elite pocket passing. I'd say he was an elite pocket passer as a rookie. Like, he was that great that Jaden doesn't have. But Jaden also does have the dynamic of being like such an insane dual threat. And like, yeah, if I need that one drive, I would take CJ. But also for a full season, I mean, look at what Jaden Daniels has done for this Commanders offense. This has been an elite offense. Nobody expected that to be the case. So I definitely think it's still very close between the two of them. We'll see where that conversation ends up at the end of the year. Any other thoughts on this game, Logan, before we move on? All right, let's look forward to the weekend then. We're going to preview 2 games here because there are 2 very big games on the slate. And they include, Logan, my Buffalo Bills and your Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's start with the big one, Bills-Chiefs. This is just the 5th meeting, I think, since the merger, in which 2 teams with 8+ wins have met in week 11 or sooner. So sort of historic in terms of how successful these teams have been. What's the first key that really stands out to you with this game, Logan?
Well, I mean, as it always comes down to this matchup, I mean, the Mahomes versus Allen, that's going to be interesting, the QB battle. I'm really looking at the Buffalo receiving core, though, and just seeing how many guys are going to be available. Cooper's missed the last 2 games with a wrist injury. Kincaid has missed the last 2 practices with a knee injury. Keon Coleman is out. So that's a big difference to me. Like, if this receiving core is down this many guys, I think it might be just insurmountable. But there's a couple other key things that I'm looking at. The Kansas City receivers. You were talking about how limited the Kansas City offense has been. I mean, they're getting Juju Smith-Schuster back from a hamstring injury.
I didn't say limited. I just said in terms of talent, it's not as talented as the other offenses.
Yeah, they're still
elite offenses we're talking about.
Getting Juju back, though, equalizes a little bit. I mean, he's a little more reliable than some of the guys they've had. DeAndre Hopkins is a difference maker. He's obviously not what he was at his apex. He just takes this offense up a notch. But it's really guys who are going to be available. Terrell Bernard was not healthy the last time these two teams met. He makes a real big difference to me. And also just like the weird, like Harrison Butker is going to be out. So now that they have Spencer Schrader from the Jets practice squad, that's interesting.
Jets kickers. That's who you want to be picking from. They've got it figured out.
Yeah. So basically, it's just I'm looking at the guys who are going to be available, but the Buffalo receiving dynamic is the biggest one to me, and why I'm going to take Kansas City to win this football game. I love Josh. He's as great as a one-man offensive engine. Also, I got some numbers for you guys who had some pushback on Josh.
Ooh.
Josh is number one not only in playoff touchdowns per game, he's number one in career touchdowns per game. He's also fourth in quarterback wins in a quarterback's first 7 seasons, just behind Wilson, Mahomes, and Joe Flacco. So for you guys who say that he doesn't produce elite offenses, there's a number for you. And for you guys who say that Josh doesn't win enough, the funniest argument I heard, Carson, was people saying that Jim Kelly was better.
Oh, good.
And my thing is, yeah, guys, that's why Jeff Hostetler is a better quarterback than Dan Marino. You know, great logic. But
I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. Unfortunately, Jim Kelly, God bless him, horrible playoff underperformer.
Also,
and
hey guys,
people just still don't have a full grasp of the talent that Josh Allen is. That's
guys,
okay.
Josh Allen has never played with 2 players the caliber of Andre Reed or Thurman Thomas.
Correct.
It's ridiculous to me. Like,
correct.
Whatever. Time will tell. But the key dynamic to me in this game, unfortunately, is the health of the Buffalo receiving room.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm going to take Kansas City to win this one.
Okay, I actually just have Josh's playoff numbers up here at a 16-game pace, okay? Let's just talk about these for a second.
Enlighten us.
Or 17-game pace, excuse me. Of course, that's the length of the NFL regular season. Now, his playoff pace over a full season, 46-29 passing yards, 36 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and on top of that, you have rushing 957 yards and 9 touchdowns. So overall, you're talking about 5,600 yards of offense and 45 touchdowns with very few turnovers. That's pretty good, dude. I don't know. That sounds pretty good to me.
Basically,
that's what he does.
Basically, what Lamar's been doing this year, people are talking about it being one of the great quarterback campaigns in NFL history. Josh has done that every game in his playoff career. Not every game, but an average playoff game for Josh is basically one of the greatest seasons ever.
Yeah, it's just funny to me when people talk about 2 things with Josh. And with any great quarterback who they use these arguments against. Number one, Super Bowls. I think that's so tired when we're talking about individual NFL players, bro. There's 22 starters, right? Like, Dan Marino doesn't have a Super Bowl. You cannot individually will your way there. There is an entire side of the ball you don't have control over. The Bills' offenses have put up like 29 points per game in the playoffs with Josh since 2020. I think that's how high. It's a super high number. I think it's the highest in the playoff field. Defenses have let him down. Number 2 is when people talk about the fact that he doesn't have an MVP, because I'm like, guys, you know that we made that up, right? You know that MVPs are invented and voters make mistakes. Josh is in his 5th straight MVP caliber season. Who cares if he literally has one? Drew Brees doesn't have one, right? Like, that is not an actual metric to use and say, oh, sorry, Josh doesn't have an MVP, so he's not as good as Brian Sipe. Because Brian Sipe has an MVP.
Oh, dude,
he's not John Brody.
I'd take Rich Gannon over.
Give me Rich Gannon.
Oh, you know what, man? Actually, I'll take Mark Mosley over Josh Allen.
And you should.
Actually. And
you should. He's a more impactful football player. Enough about Josh, but I do think that he is really the key to this game for the Bills, because you mentioned Coleman is out. Kincaid is officially out. And Amari Cooper's missed the last 2 weeks. He's questionable. So with all those dudes healthy, I actually would have picked the Bills. And part of that is just kind of a gut feeling. But the Bills have won their last 3 regular season meetings against the Chiefs. And they play the Chiefs better than anybody else in football. And this Chiefs team, as great as they've been, I do think they're kind of due for a loss in a close game. But they don't have those dudes healthy. At best case scenario, Amari Cooper is out there. And I'm honestly not optimistic about that because his injury's been kind of weird. And the Bills are going into the bye, which makes me think they'll be more conservative with all of these guys to buy them that extra week to recover. So that's a big concern because that's a tall task to overcome. That means the Bills have to be able to run the ball against arguably the best run defense in football. This is the best rushing attack the Bills have had, but that's still something that they really need to do successfully when the Chiefs are going to know that that's going to be an objective for them. And Josh is going to have to pull out some absolute magic. We've talked all year about how this is the most controlled Josh. This is the most mistake-averse Josh that we've seen. Taking what the defense gives you, that's not going to be enough in this game. Early downs, you want to try to work the run game. You want to try to get some screens to Shakir and Curtis Samuel. That's all fine and good by me. But without 3 of the 4 best receiving targets potentially in this offense, like if the Bills are going to get explosive plays, it is going to be a broken play where Josh runs around for 6, 7, 8 seconds and then launches the ball 45 yards downfield. The guys just aren't going to separate at a high enough level, and the Chiefs are going to spy him. So I don't know if we'll see a ton of Josh running for yardage, but he's going to have to do some scrambling to throw at the least. And at the end of the day, that spy starts coming down, starts with a late pass rush. Like, he's just going to have to make dudes miss, and he's going to have to go through dudes. I think that versus this defense with these limited weapons, the Bills need a great Josh game. They need an above and beyond Josh game. If Amari plays, it's easier, but I'm not super optimistic about Amari playing. And on the opposite side, I think that the Bills really need to try to keep Kansas City's run game in check, because that's Buffalo's weakness defensively, the run defense. The Chiefs are just 30th in rushing yards per attempt, but they're 7th in rushing attempts. They really do try to run the ball, and I guarantee you they are going to against the Bills. And if the Bills can stop the run with some success, get them to 3rd and long, Kansas City's been unbelievable on 3rd down. They've been the best offense in football clearly on 3rd down, but the Bills' corners are amazing. And I think that they can hold up in coverage in those spots as well as anybody could at the very least. And really the big matchup in the passing game is going to be Travis Kelce to me. That's kind of the matchup of the game, because you don't have Matt Milano out there to help in coverage on Kelce. It's going to be largely on Taron Johnson's shoulders. And in the 7 meetings between the Bills and the Chiefs since 2020, including the playoffs, Kelce averages 86 yards per game, and he has 8 total touchdowns. So he is the guy to watch. He is the guy to watch on 3rd down, and he's had a lot of success in this matchup, and the Bills are down a valuable piece in how they cover him. So, like I said, with the weapons healthy, I would have gone Buffalo. Without them, I think it's an uphill battle. I'm going to go Kansas City 27-24. Same score?
I'm taking a 27-23.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, that feels about right. I think both these teams are going to put up points. I don't think either one of them is going to explode. It's just tough. Bills are shorthanded. I think it's possible, but that would be like a signature moment for Josh this season. I think he'd definitely have to play one of his best games and maybe his most show-stopping just in terms of doing crazy stuff. Let's talk Steelers-Ravens, Logan. What keys stand out to you here?
The biggest key to me is, can the Ravens slow down the Steelers' passing attack? And it's kind of funny just saying that out loud, considering how limited the Steelers' passing attack has been. But I referenced these numbers the past couple of weeks. The difference between Fields and Russell Wilson. The Steelers are gaining nearly 100 more yards per game overall with Wilson, and they're averaging 9 more points per game with Russell Wilson. They've averaged 30 points per game with Russell Wilson at the helm. And this is a team that now has Mike Williams. So when you couple the fact that they've been super explosive with Russ, you know, finding George Pickens on deep shots, finding Pat Freiermuth, finding Calvin Austin on some shot plays, and now that we've added basically just a jump ball guy, because that's what I think Mike Williams is, right? He's not a great technical receiver. He doesn't have great hands. He's not a great route runner. You tell Mike, run in a straight line, forward, just burn the other corner. That's what he does. When you add in the fact that the Ravens are the number 32 ranked passing defense overall, they've allowed the most total yards and total TDs to opposing teams, that could be problematic. So that's the biggest key to me. And the Steelers always play the Ravens really well. They are 7-3. The Steelers are over their last 10 matchups. They have won 3 straight against Baltimore, and they have won 7 of their last 8 matchups against Baltimore. We've had the Ravens number, and Lamar Jackson has not defeated the Steelers in 5 years. He is 2-4 versus the Steelers in his career. He has not beaten them since 2019. On the other side of the football, obviously, the biggest variable change is Derrick Henry. How does Derrick Henry change the geometry of the Steelers defending Lamar? That's the biggest thing, but I think the Steelers have a really good personnel group. They always play Derrick Henry really well. They always play Lamar really well. If they can slow that down and turn Lamar into a passer, get pressure home, that's going to be the difference. Even though the Steelers have been explosive and the Ravens have been susceptible to explosive plays, I think this is going to be a nasty, grimy Steelers-Ravens football game. They always are. I'm expecting turnovers. I'm expecting kind of a defensive football game. I'm going to take the Steelers to win this one 20-17. I think it's going to be nasty.
Wow. I don't expect the Steelers to hold the Ravens offense in check like that. Frankly, I don't know if anybody really can hold them in check like that.
I mean, if there's going to be a team, it's going to be Pittsburgh.
Could be. They're averaging 32 points per game this year. My goodness. They're averaging the most yards per play in NFL history by any offense. Ridiculous what they're doing. So I do lean on the Baltimore offense just being so damn good. And for the Steelers, I think that there's a path to them winning this game, definitely. I think that there's kind of two key components that I look at, one on each side of the ball. Offensively, can they get some shot plays off against this secondary? You mentioned the vertical threat that Pickens is. Calvin Austin has some potential there. Russ just adds that dimension to this offense, and this is a very vulnerable Baltimore secondary. That, to me, is how Pittsburgh can put up points in bunches, which I do kind of think they'll need to do. And then second key for Pittsburgh is just, can you get a couple of superhuman moments from TJ Watt, right? Can you get a strip sack on Lamar? Can you force maybe a couple turnovers or get a couple really big sacks on third down, right? Get them off the field. I think you need those sort of swing plays from the defense, and I'm looking specifically at him because that's what he does. And that, to me, is the path for Pittsburgh. I ultimately think they're just at a talent disadvantage. They're at an explosiveness disadvantage. Logan hates it. And what, I can't ever pick against the Steelers?
No, you can. I think Lamar has multiple turnovers in this game.
That's the path.
I think he gives us a pick. I think he loaf breads the football, drops one time. I think we get the Ravens off their game script, and the Steelers offense just does enough. I don't know. Steelers always play Lamar really well.
I know, but Lamar's better than he's ever been, dude.
He is. I just knew you were going to take the Ravens. I'm not surprised. I don't blame you. The Ravens are a really good football team, but I think the Steelers play Lamar really well, and we've got a really good game plan. Derrick Henry changes the math on this a little bit,
and also, you're talking about making Lamar a passer. I mean, Lamar's an elite passer, right? That's the difference between him and the version that you saw a few years ago.
And this is an elite defense, man. I think this is going to be a battle.
But it's the greatest offense in terms of yards per play in NFL history. Like, the Ravens are crazy offensively, and Lamar has been, by every statistical metric, the best passer in football this year. I'm not saying that's what he is, but that's what the numbers are. He leads in passing touchdowns, touchdown percentage, yards per attempt, passer rating, QBR. I think it's tough to overcome. I'm going to take the Ravens 30-21. I think that they still do their thing offensively.
Damn.
But I think the Steelers kind of do their thing offensively, too. I think
they're going to beat our ass?
Chunk plays. No, I don't. I don't think they're going to beat
your
ass.
That's an ass kicking. That's an ass kicking.
Not in the game flow that I foresee. The game flow that I foresee is it's 23-21.
They get a late
7 minutes to go in the fourth. Then they get a tutty. You guys can't respond. 30-21. It's not an ass beating, but it's a convincing win.
I would be shocked if we lose by more than one score. Actually, I mean, any Steelers-Ravens game that is decided by more than one score, I'm kind of surprised. But
yeah, this Baltimore offense though is the best.
I think
that rivalry has seen. Ever.
True. I think this is classic Steelers-Ravens.
Okay. All right. We'll see. It's not 2008 anymore, though, Logan. We must be aware of this. Oh, the times
No, what you don't understand, Carson, is that the NFL product sucks. We need to get rid of the two high safeties. Every game has been. We got
to get rid of the two high shells.
Painfully low scoring. Nobody scores any touchdowns anymore.
Quarterbacks don't know how to play anymore. What happened to Tom Brady? What happened to Drew Brees? What happened to Peyton Manning?
Dude, it's going to be like 3-2, man. The Steelers are going to win this one 3-2.
Well, offenses are dead, Logan. Offenses are dead, and there's no passing game anymore. And the refs, don't get me started on the refs with the flags. They've always got the flags they're throwing out on the field, and it's all rigged. Did I mention that? It's all rigged.
True.
Sad. Why do we even talk about these sports? Why do we even do a podcast? It's all rigged, and it's all way worse than it was 15 years ago when I was younger and everything was the best that it's ever been. I'm disgusted. And on that note, this podcast is over. Appreciate you guys listening. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, the good news is there's plenty more Nerd Sesh content. Check out our YouTube channel. We've got all our full shows there on the NBA and NFL. Follow us across social media. If you want to see clips from the show, graphics from the show, and all of our original content, trivia, some quick hitting takes that we put out there. You can also, by the way, on our YouTube channel, see all the video essays, video breakdowns that we do on the NBA and NFL, going more in depth on a specific topic. And you can listen to the show across all audio platforms. As I mentioned, check out our merch, breakingtea.com. That is linked in our link tree, as is our Discord, if you want to join our community there and chat with the gang. So with that, as always, appreciate you guys. I've been Carson Brabber.
I've been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.